There's the practical resilience that comes from the tech that's been tested in anger, particularly in the pandemic. And then there's the sort of more cultural resilience, which I think is inherent in any industry which has been going through transformation.
Can you talk about how you steered and adapted the organization to be more resilient? So any new processes, technology, people you may have introduced or ways of working to enable that?
So this is an interesting question, I think, a couple of years on from a global pandemic, right, which was the ultimate test of resilience. So going into that period, we had a couple of advantages, I think, versus sort of another company. One is that we had been a cloud-enabled outfit right from the beginning, from before the days when cloud was cool. The Telegraph was heavily invested, whether that's in Google Apps, whether it's in cloud infrastructure, or whether it was in the kind of the SaaS solutions that we would pick in any particular point application requirement. So because of that, I suppose resilience had become more of an embedded part of certainly the technology operating capabilities of the company, but also moving into supporting the need in a media and journalism-driven organization for flexibility. We have people working all around the world, remote locations, etc. They need to be able to work regardless of, what's going on in the wider macro environment. So many of the challenges that people faced when the pandemic came around in terms of company organization were things with which we were already familiar, albeit not en masse. Actually, that was a really good test, I think, of our arrangements, our continuity plans, our remote working capabilities, our business posture. So, it was a terrible episode for us all to go through, but actually some good came from that, from a point of view of really refining that capability here. I mean, media has been a very changeable industry in the 20 years that I've worked here.
Yeah.
And I think on the kind of human level, you've got to have a high degree of resilience to be able to weather the turbulence of working in media for the last 20 years, Yeah. And I think a lot of the people who work here appreciate that. It's a very fast-paced environment. Lots of new things come up, lots of changing requirements as sort of business models have adapted and changed. So I think there's the practical resilience that comes from the tech that's been tested in anger, particularly in the pandemic. And then there's the sort of more cultural resilience, which I think is inherent in any industry which has been going through transformation for a considerable period of time.
So shifting gear to a subject that I know is particularly important to you and the leadership of the Telegraph, can you just talk about your overall approach to sustainability and then perhaps any specific initiatives or programs that you're particularly proud of?
Good question. And you're right to say that it is important to me personally and indeed to the company. It's something that, again, we have quietly taken seriously for quite a long time, actually. And our approach has been, as well as doing the sensible corporate low impact initiatives that any company would seek to do, trying to reduce our own footprint, our own waste, etc. We've also tried to lean on technology to help us unlock sustainability improvements. And there's a couple of examples that I'll mention. Okay, so first of all, if you think about us as a printer and distributor of newspapers, not every newspaper that gets printed gets sold, of course. That's understandable when you have a product that's produced every single day. So there's a certain number of newspapers that one would expect to get returned in the sale process. And the interesting complexity is that Telegraph newspapers are available for sale in tens of thousands of outlets across the land. The sales requirement on any given day across all those different outlets varies a little. And the art is to try and maximize the sale whilst minimizing the waste. And that's something that in this industry had been done for a long time and in many places still is, by humans exercising judgment and by kind of careful human analysis of historical data. And that's great, but it only takes you so far. So A few years ago, we ran it in the relatively early days of the application of machine learning, a project where we applied machine learning to the problem, and it actually allowed us to reduce the number of returned newspapers quite considerably, okay, whilst also maintaining the availability of those papers at the outlets where people were looking to buy them. So maintain the sale, reduce the waste, fewer newspapers produced, which means less cost for us as a business. So like any good sustainability initiative, also has corporate benefits, but material reduction in the impact on the environment.
Yeah, less waste.
Exactly right. And if you bring that up to, the present day, we've taken a similar principle and applied it to our use of cloud computing infrastructure. So a lot of the infrastructure used here is in cloud infrastructure, has been for many years. What we do now, and we've done this with the team at Google actually, is we now analyze the sustainability of a unit of compute around the world at any one time. And we move our workloads around the world in pursuit of the lowest impact at any one point. So if you imagine, areas of the globe where the sun is shining and you potentially get access to solar power, or where the wind is blowing and there's wind power powering the data center in that region, we try and make sure that our compute is running from those locations.
Excellent.
To try and minimize the impact. And again, that's something that I think has made a positive difference. And I'm particularly proud of it because it's applications of, kind of up-to-date technology by willing engineers who largely did that themselves.